Well, why can't we just do the damn show? It's the last one. Let's just do it.
And with that,
that's the thing. I was waiting. If you'd have just started the intro right then, I'd love you forever. But as it
I
is,
did.
I love you forever -1.
I actually did
didn't.
start it right there because I cut us over
Oh.
and your screen was up when you said, "Can we just do the damn show?" And when I said, "And with that," welcome to TruTalk, everybody, and welcome to the Season 2 finale. I'm GamerDad, joined with GrindheadJim, and getting right into it, we're also joined by our next host, MrPureInstinct. So you haven't taken over just yet. Jim and I are still here running the show, but we do want to give you a nice TRUgaming and TruTalk welcome. I know you've been on here before with us as a guest, as a true affiliate, as it were. Also, not a true fact anymore. Is that correct?
That is correct. As of last week, I am now a true partner.
And then, boing.
So for those who have been keeping up with the podcast over, I guess, the last couple years, because season 1 was, I think, in 2017, or maybe very early 2018. The true partner title actually used to be called a sponsored streamer through TRUgaming, and they've changed the program to be true members. So anybody who's just with TRUgaming in the Discord and trying to grow the community, they're members. They have an affiliate program, so then there's the true affiliate rank, and then now true partner. So sponsored streamer became true partner, and that was very recent. So we interviewed MrPureInstinct as an affiliate. He has now been offered a true partner role and obviously has accepted. So this is also the first TruTalk podcast that we've done where it's all partners, Jim. We've always had an affiliate.
Really? I didn't know that.
I didn't realize that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but you're not the first repeat guest. We made him.
Right.
I made a mistake. No, there's no we about it. I made a mistake and brought someone back on, forgetting that I had him on in the first place. But it was Eshned. It was totally fine. We don't mind having him here multiple times. I just wanted to get somebody new and forgot. So here's Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, does that mean that you forgot that he was on? It's like, does that mean you felt that his appearance was so memorable? I'm kidding. We love you, Eshned. I'm just making a joke at your expense because you're not here, and I will be sure to pay you back in like bits or hot chocolate or something,
or virtual hugs. You can just give him a virtual hug. Maybe we'll rate him after this.
Oh, chocolate is a virtual hug as far as I'm concerned.
Facts,
Sweet.
all facts. And that is what tonight is going to be all about. The cringy transitions have started already. Tonight's going to be all about facts. We're going to talk about each of our favorite games of 2018, each of our least favorite games of 2018. Spoiler alert, Destiny 2 might be on the list somewhere. And then a little bit of highlights and talk about some of the previous podcast episodes, kind of the highs and lows, because I think we had a little bit of both, Jim. So,
yeah, sure.
Before we get into that, I think we get to grill MPI a little bit, right?
We can.
Can we give them the business?
We can.
Is it like
Do
1940?
we have to?
Well, no, but we can be a little nice and let everybody get to know him. So we did get.
Oh, yeah, how about this?
Yeah.
How about this? Let's since the whole point of this is the transition from this season to next season. The format's going to change. We're going to change the format of the interview on the spot, not planned.
Bingo.
Here it is. We've had you on before. You're an affiliate before. You're a partner now. What have you learned as a streamer in that time? What new thing have you picked up? What changed about your approach to the game, sir?
Ooh, that's a good one. So
I know. It's like I do this for a living or something.
Yeah, man. Now I got something to live up to.
It's making those shoes bigger and bigger to fill each episode.
Yeah.
Not just transitions, man. Although
think
that's a big part of it.
Biggest thing that I probably changed would be that I went from trying to play a lot of like multiplayer games all the time to focusing so much on story-based games, because then it's almost a running series, like a television series. You want to come back the next day and know the next thing in the story. It's a lot more interesting to keep people coming back than, oh, well, you're going to play, Call of Duty for 4 hours. You're going to shoot people. I get it. So I think that's been something that took off a little bit, as well as a big schedule change.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that with the shift in game, do you feel like it's the game change that is really what's driving that, or more of your relation to chat and the game that has changed? I find in some cases that depending upon how it's done, there are guys out there who do PvP streams, for example, that have way more chat interaction. Guys that do story, some people riff on story-based games. Like everyone has a different approach to different types of games. Do you think that it's a combination of things, or is it just the fact that you're trying to make it more episodic? Like, tell me more about it.
I think it's a little bit of both. The episodic is kind of a little bit of the freebie that you get with a story-based game, because it's always going to be what happens next in that story, or what's in the next episode. If it is an episodic game like The Walking Dead or Life is Strange, something like that. But I think me personally, I can have a better interaction with chat during a story game because I'm not focused as heavily on the game. Like if I play a multiplayer game, it's usually something like Halo, and I get very focused on Halo. So it would be, I'd finish a match and then I would look over and catch up on chat. Then I would go back and play the match. So that kind of took me away from the chat interaction. And, if people were coming to watch gameplay and someone either growing and learning how to play the game better, then that would be great for them. But for most people on Twitch, they were coming for, I want to talk to this person and interact with them, but that's not happening as much in a competitive game for me. I do every morning, but when we start the stream, I play Dead by Daylight for about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. And that has kind of a good balance of competitiveness, but I can still talk to chat at the same time.
I kind of feel like I asked that question specifically to point out the fact that you're the right guy to take over the podcast, because similar outlooks, but different ways of doing it. Like for me, I did the exact opposite. I went away from story-based games. I went away from variety streaming to focus on just a game where I was comfortable all the time. I could play it in my sleep. And even with PvP, no matter how sweaty it gets, I am always looking up a chat and talking to chat and doing stuff. Because for me, it's a comfortable place for me to be in, and I can play that thing on autopilot. Especially in PvP, I seem to shine when it comes to chat interaction for some reason. Whereas when I'm playing a story-based game, if it's something I've never played, I'm like really focused on it, and I don't want to take away from like the spectacle of that story. So I tend not to be as interactive. I tend to be more focused on creating a show where I'm like riffing on it and doing all this other stuff. So I find it really compelling and interesting. Kind of have the other way of doing it, which bodes well for the podcast, I must say. It really does.
Yeah, when we were talking about handing this off, MPI was one of the first names that came to mind. I know we actually talked about you doing some of this originally when I was, getting to know Jim and everything. We were gonna rotate guest hosts with me, and it was hard to find that, I guess, that balance or that synergy with me and a different person, and so I was stuck with Jim. Fortunately, very fortunately, I was stuck with Jim.
Well, I mean,
is that a backhanded compliment? Yeah, I did ask.
You did ask. I told him, because after we did it, I felt like there was something to build on there. I've done ads and scads of different kinds of podcast formats, and I'm used to talking all the time, obviously. So it comes naturally to me, but I enjoy GamerDad's company so much, and I hadn't really done a general gaming news kind of thing before. I thought, what the hell? And when he's like, "Hey, do you just want to just do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. Let's run with this and see where it goes." And I knew in my heart of hearts it wasn't going to last years and years and years. I didn't have any no illusion of that, because this is a branded show that we don't own. We were doing this to help out the TRU brand and the company and the community. I knew that it was going to be fine. I didn't know how long we'd be doing it, but I was like, this, if I'm going to do this in this format, in this kind of way, this is the guy I want to do it with. And to wrap up the season the way that we had, like the initial of impetus for, hey, because GamerDad's going to go do his thing. And I was like, I don't really want to do it if I'm not doing it with you. I think that the show with us on it was the two of us. I want to see the thing die because we built something really cool. And then that became this, okay, well, let's hand it off to somebody. Let's make this a thing. It all grew organically. I thought it was really cool, where opportunity created a vacuum that we had to fill, and then everything kind of backfill. I really dug that about it, and I'm really, really stoked that we got here, because we've established a structure, we've established a vibe, a bar has been set. I'd like to think, and I'm really, really anxious and pleased to see where MPI takes it. No pressure, actually, not pressure, but
And enter right down here our vacuum, Mr. Pure Instinct.
Yes. Yes.
So
you suck. Oh no! Ha ha ha!
Great. So one of the things that kind of evolved out of this conversation, well, Jim, you were saying that you didn't want to do it without me, and I certainly didn't want to just come up to you and be like, well, see ya, you're on your own. Like, we had a good offline conversation planning this out, but you had a thought live on our podcast last week as this evolved that, what, this is the perfect opportunity. We carried the baton for a little bit. We found someone else willing that we trust and can work with to now take that baton. And then we would hope that as your season comes to a close, another partner is willing to step up and can take the same kind of lead that you're taking, and you can transition off to them. And I'm hoping that becomes a tradition. I know, Jim, you kind of just thought of that out of the blue as we were talking, but I really like and hope that really becomes a True Talk podcast tradition.
I think it needs to, because when whole structure of the TRU, I want to call it the hierarchy of members, right? You've got member, affiliate, partner, and there's this idea that there's going to be this rotating thing. I think that if TRU is going to be successful at what TRU does, you're going to see people that see an amount of success where they eventually leave the program, or at least take a more of a backseat role as like an ambassador. I think that would be the next thing, like someone who's a partner, who's got a really strong community of their own, but they can't be really involved in the day-to-day, and they become an ambassador. And I think as if a bunch of people get there, then there's more need for more partners to step up and do things like this. And I think that should, if we're doing things in the right way, should be a constant flow, each quarter and semi-annually and annually, that you're going to see new faces. And I think that just creates more and more opportunity to take these things, because you look at, like, there's institutions in all forms of media, right? You look at, like, the late night talk shows, how those have, each era has always had, like, the hosts that have certain kind of vibes to them. And in an internet age, I think those eras get shorter because, the attention span of the internet's about 18.3 seconds. And that's fine.
Squirrel.
Exactly. Internet squirrel. So, and the reason I'm saying this out loud again, and I want to drive this point home for those that are listening, and I really hope the guys over at TRU are listening, this is an opportunity to really grow the program in something like this. This is a really informal, fun type of show that doesn't have to have an insane structure, that you can bring people on and constantly be introducing people to the medium, because the person that you have on as an affiliate at the beginning of the season ends up becoming a partner hosting the season by the end of it, which just happened. I'm just saying, like, this is like a literal example,
Yeah.
demonstrable statistic. You're a statistic now, MPI. How do you feel about that? You're a statistic. You're setting this stage now. Not saying you have to pick guests that are going to be hosting later, but she did that. We did it twice.
Mhm.
But no, there's that really one is no pressure because you may find someone out of the blue you didn't have a chance to go on.
Yeah.
I think that the opportunity for growth with this, to groom talent, to see who can run with something. I mean, let's face it. I mean, the stuff that GamerDad's going off to do, I feel like you watch and listen to True Talk, you see how he grew as a host. You look at his show, it has grown even in that time. And you cannot tell me that his participation in leading this podcast didn't in some way allude to what he could be doing in another format, which is what he's going to do. And I really feel like also demonstrable fact that this platform, this particular show should be used for, because it's about true gaming affiliates, partners, and members, and it's about growing those people and teaching each other how to kind of do this. It's kind of cool.
And
it's almost like a college radio station in that sense.
Right. And before we get into the actual like podcast topics for tonight, if I could give a little bit of wisdom off to MPI with what I went through, I kind of started off with this with the idea to bring it back with White Shadow, who just doesn't have the time. He's got his own tech podcast. But we partnered up, and I ran into the adversity of I never could find someone consistent who could commit the same way that I could commit week in and week out, until I ran into Jim, and we just had a good connection on our cast together, and then we just picked it back up and ran with it. So I would say to you, you're going to run into the same thing when you get started. If you find a co-host or want to find a co-host, the first one's going to say no. I almost guarantee you will run into the case where you probably, and in no disrespect to the others around here, you can't necessarily rely on someone to automatically just drop everything and get ready to go, but you're going to find someone and you're going to stick with it, and just know that you're going to have a little bit of that ebb and flow, but at the same time, you stick with kind of your drive.
Might be the first visual instance of Gamer Mom ever on True Talk.
No, there's been one before. I don't think that's. I think
was there?
Yeah, I think it's one of the podcasts that I haven't published yet. But yeah, she snuck in one before.
Oh, right on.
But yeah, that was her.
She did good, by the way.
Checking the. Yeah, I thank you. I appreciate that.
She's a looker, and she brought you food, and she puts up with this show, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Dude.
Sorry
to interrupt your flow, bro.
It's all good. And on several podcasts.
Speaking of finding a co-host, right?
That's right.
Right, co-host, right?
There you go. No, she's the host. I am her co-host. She is the host. Let's something else to learn. Most of the time, she's sitting right back there on the couch watching TV and hanging out, kind of tuning me out. So she's super supportive. Doesn't let it get in the way of her night routines. So,
Are you talking?
Yeah. What?
No.
So I think we're going to turn it over to MPI for a second, let him take the wheels for a second. We're going to talk about favorite games of 2018. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Pure Instinct. Why don't you go ahead and lead us in with some of your favorite games that you've either played or seen played or were excited to try out. Just give us some of your hot items of the 2018 releases, PC or console or mobile, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Sure. I think I've been thinking about it since we decided to do our favorite game. Mine had to have been God of War. That game was just amazing. It blew me away in so many aspects. It was gorgeous. The story was interesting the entire time through. And if you went off to do things off to the side, it didn't feel like you were getting away from the story like it does in some games that have so many side quests. There's a lot of games that play a side quest and it's, okay, well, you're going to fight, the king and save the land. Well, the side quest is go kill 12 rabbits and bring me their hide just because I want it. This one, it felt like if you go kill the Valkyries, you're still growing as like regrowing as the god and teaching Atreus how to basically take over these powers, kind of thing, and him survive and live when you're gone. So that game was probably one of the best story games I've played in a long time. It was awesome. I don't know if either of you guys were big God of War or not, but I loved it.
I never played it, to be honest. I played, well, the original one and the PSP version, but I watched your stream and 2 other streams. In fact, I watched the TRUgaming stream, you and Velok all play through some of the story, and I found it fascinating. I didn't have a capture card at the time, and it was very hard for me to get out from behind my desk to get on the console, so I didn't dive into it, but it looks amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, God of War, like the series, I'm hugely invested in it. I love it. I was excited for this when it came out. I love the concept of it. All the reviews are great. I haven't played it, and it kind of, for me, alludes to a theme you're going to see as we continue to discuss these games. Last year and a half, 2 years, I have fallen into same kind of, call it a rut. Others would call it frugalness with video games as I do with technology, which is I'm always a year to 2 years behind, so I never have to pay more than I have to. And luckily, the games that I have been most hyped for this year either fall into my lap for free at some point. Because God of War, it's going to end up on PlayStation Plus sometime, especially with them dropping off PS3 and Vita games in February. They need to have more PS4 games. Spider-Man, it's also a Sony exclusive. It's going to be coming for free at some point. Again, this doesn't allude to the actual games that I have played that I'm going to talk about. Simply, I'm saying, like, those 2 games, huge games. I'm such a fan. I can't wait to play them. But I'll play them when I get to them. It says the guy who has a 400 plus deep backlog on Steam alone. Doesn't even come close to what I have on PS4 in some cases. I have, like, if you look on my PS4 on my streams, if you catch it when I'm switching to like party or something, you'll see there's Destiny 1, Destiny 2, Watch Dogs, and there's a folder called Not Destiny. And then the only other one is Humble Bundles as well. Gotta be, definitely.
Oh yeah.
But like then of course you have like what I call Mom's Do List. My stream calls me Mom. All stuff that they've asked me to play specifically, and that thing gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Mom, when are you gonna play it? Well, when I get to it. Like I did a Life is Strange series a couple years ago. I got a couple of viewers that will go back and watch it every quarter, and they'll leave new YouTube comments and shit, and they just like they find new things because in games like that or Telltale, I riff the whole time, really lewd and stupid. Something that I'm good at and I enjoy doing it, but as Destiny the game continues to evolve and become something that I need to be active in staying current with the game, and with my life being the way it is, I mainly play games on stream. I don't play games when I'm not streaming very much anymore, as a means of work-life balance and stuff like that. So I have less and less time that I devote to other games, and I feel like there's going to be a day when I go, all right, here we go. And we just start delving in where I dedicate 1 day a week or something.
A mom marathon. That's what you need, is a mom marathon. Just go like
yeah. Well, here's the reality of it. The job that I have right now, I work 4 11-hour days a week. I work Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And it's at this desk. And although this chair is comfortable, it is not the most comfortable. So when I'm in this chair for that, think about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I spend 44 hours just at work. Then you add another minimum of 6 hours a day on my days off, because I only stream for 3 hours. I have at least 3 other hours of things I got to do for editing and stuff. That adds up to somewhere to the tune of close to 70 hours in this chair. Got to get out of that chair. Now, the job I have, I will eventually get to a place, hopefully, where I am salaried and I'm doing 5 8-hour days again, with a somewhat full schedule. And when I get to that place where I can then do streams on my days off, but also maybe 1 or 2 in the evenings or whatever, it would make a lot of sense. A story day or the mom do list day or something.
Mm-hmm.
Not there yet. Being on a 3-day-a-week schedule, it's got to be Destiny, and chatting, which is working out well. But I think that life structure is going to affect their gameplay habits differently. And I think that's one of the coolest things about content. One of the coolest things about what we do here at TruTalk. Like, and look at a lot of the gaming news that we have with a completely removed eye and go, that's stupid, because I have no investment in the news most of the time. Like, the one thing that GamerDad and I really kind of clamped down on but from different perspectives, was the whole Telltale thing. You know, he comes from a dev background and I come from a big fan of that company up until that point. And it was, for me, really interesting to tackle those subjects from those different perspectives, because we do have such a great thing. But other than God of War, what else?
One that came out this year that I was really excited to play, and I liked the game, let me say that before, but I don't think it quite lived up to the hype that I had for it, was the Call of Cthulhu video game.
Oh, yeah, I saw the first thing I saw of that game was the ending.
Yeah.
Not kidding.
So,
like, boy, am I glad I didn't play that. Just saying.
There are 4 endings to that game.
I've seen 3.
I still don't know how to get the 4th one.
Yeah, I've seen 3, and I've never seen the 4th one.
What game is this?
It was a Call of Cthulhu, the video game.
Oh, that's just the title?
Yeah, well, it's Call of Cthulhu.
Okay.
Which is based off of like
I mean,
H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, and I know the Cthulhu like kind of mythos or world or yeah.
This was supposed to be basically the video game adaptation of the tabletop RPG, which was the first tabletop RPG that I ever played. So I had a fond memory of this. I like spooky stuff. I like horror. I like the mythos and creepy themed things. So this was like right up my alley. So I played it. It was a fun game, but it was all almost based on dialogue differences if something changed. There weren't as many like choices that changed in immediate action. It was like one small dialogue would change the complete outcome of the story. So it was a fun game. It was good, but trying to get all 4 endings became a little bit tiresome.
Right. Whereas you look at like Deus Ex Human Revolution, where they literally just handhold you and say you can choose any one of these endings. So the smart player makes a save point, kind of boom, boom, boom.
That's what I ended up finding out.
And
3 of the endings changed solely based on one dialogue option at the end of the game. So you sat through about a 25-second to 30-second cutscene and then could change the outcome of the entire game. So I played through it a second time all the way through from the beginning and then realized I could do that. I was like, oh my God, I just wasted all that time. But by that time, I knew where everything was. I knew exactly what to do. So I just, kind of ran through it really fast. But it was like, man, I didn't think to do that.
Yeah. One thing, okay, old man hat goes on. Save often, save early, and have many different save points whenever possible.
Yeah, don't just overwrite every save file.
Oh, no.
Never overwrite. You use all them save slots, boy. Always. Especially in dialogue branching games, or especially they give you the option, do it. But that game was built up to be a lot more complex in terms of the dialogue trees than it in fact ended up being. So I don't think this was a case where, I don't think this was a case of your hype being too great for it. I think it was a case of them hyping it more than it needed to be. So if they'd have just come out and said this is a fairly basic story game where you get to have some fun, there's some alternate endings, and you don't know where things are going to branch, and it would have been a lot better received.
Yeah,
I think they were wanting to kind of they wanted to be this year's what was that indie game, like the indie AAA game that got all the awards? with the lady
Hellblade.
that talked to herself. Yes, they wanted to be the next Hellblade.
Wow, that was the
And
vaguest
multi,
description
by
I've
the way.
heard, and you picked that up quick.
Well, that game. I played it and it immediately jumped to my top 5 of my entire life.
Yeah.
The game is fantastic.
Also on the mom's to-do list, by the way.
It's
I haven't
amazing.
touched it.
I don't want to overhype it for you, but holy crap, that game's so good.
I really well, the thing is, I said indie AAA, and that was like the coined industry term when that game came out because it was
Yep.
an indie thing, and
Okay.
I think that's probably what got his head going at that point. It wasn't like, oh, this chick and she talks to herself.
That
I think
would
that
have
was
got
what
me
got
too.
him.
But yeah, I watched the
Right,
the
because he
entire
listens.
like
Host.
30 some odd episode docuseries on YouTube about the making of that game, and they talked about that a lot. They were like, "This is a AAA game that is basically an indie game because we don't have any funding." So I think that's kind of what clicked it for me. But yeah, that
I
game,
totally
like I
get that,
said,
but,
was
like,
one of my top 5.
then you come to Call of Cthulhu, where I think they were trying to like project that image of it, like that image of the game, because they wanted to be the next whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To be Hellblade. They didn't. They knew they didn't have the game, but they will just ride the coattails of the thing, maybe get some sales and whatever. I feel like that may have killed the reception of that game, and I think a lot of content creators went into that game, Cthulhu at this point. They were going to have a lot more shelf life with that thing. There would be more than 4 endings. Be a lot of different story arcs you could take and side quests and stuff, and
Definitely
it
expected
didn't
more
have
of
that.
the RPG element than there was.
It didn't have that. It was a decent story game with a few twists and turns in there, however slight, and fun game, but not what I think the community was hoping it was going to be. Great, good experience, not comparative to what the expectation was, which unfortunately happens all too often.
That reminds me of when Space Marine came out, because I like everything Warhammer or the Games Workshop or just that whole 40K future sci-fi kind of thing. And pretty much nobody has. I can't even. I have too many to pick from. Nobody's ever seen me paint any 40K models, but every Warhammer game that comes out, I at least look into. And Space Marine was one of those where it was like super hyped, and you get to play a single Space Marine character, and you go through this, and by the end of the story, you're like, that's not how that would have really worked in the universe. Like, that's wrong, And it was just, it got boring. And then they tried to make it a PvP game, and, So, it's unfortunate when you have your hopes built into a big game, and then it's just not.
There's another Call of Cthulhu game
third,
supposed to be coming out, but I can't remember the name of it now. And I'm
Call
hoping...
Cthulhu 2.
Well, it's a completely different studio, and it's supposed to be based in the Cthulhu mythos, but I think that one is supposed to be a little bit more RPG. I just can't remember the name of it now.
Maybe they should call it the real Call of Cthulhu to like do the Ghostbusters thing.
The actual,
the real Call of Cthulhu,
or the recall or
the
redial.
Factual.
How about the redial? Call redial. Get it? Like call Redux? Phone call.
I'm just connection the first time. We got to call him back.
Here you go. How about this one? Go with me on this. Those of you that are older will get this. Those of you younger will be like, what? Call of Cthulhu, Star 69.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, back in the days before cell phone, with a landline, if someone called you and you weren't home to answer it, or you just didn't get it, or you wanted to know what their number was. This is before caller ID. You would dial star 69. It would call that person back. It was the trolliest shit you could do.
And it wasn't free.
No, it cost money, like 75 cents or something.
Yeah,
it's crazy. But yeah, I would star 69 Cthulhu in a heartbeat. Bring them tentacles over here, boy. Let's talk. Let's talk. I mean, think about it. You talk about double fisting at Cthulhu. It'd be fun at parties. You could just hold a six-pack and be like, yo, what's up? And still have two hands to slap you silly. Bah, bah, bah.
I'm now picturing Cthulhu with like a six-pack of beer, the tentacles holding each can up or something like that.
Well, what else would you use them for at a party?
Or
slapping people
or
around?
You could do like... because if it is a different studio, if they have a publisher, it's not an indie title. You could call it Conference Call of Cthulhu because corporate. Huh? I gotta keep going, man. I can do this all day.
Oh man. Did you have any more games for us, MPI?
Please,
So
for the love of God.
it came out this year, but it's a reimagining, if you will, or a reigniting, if you will. Spyro.
Oh,
So
right on.
when I was a kid, I always played the Crash Bandicoot games. I was a
Yeah.
kid. I couldn't buy my own games, so you picked. You got whatever game you got. So I always went with the Crash Bandicoot series because it was the first one I got into. So I had the remastered of all the Crash Bandicoot games, loved it. And then they said, hey, we're remaking the Spyro games, the first 3. I was like, well, this is my time. This is perfect because I've always heard so many great things about it, but I didn't want to play the old PlayStation 1 games because I don't have a TV for that. All I have is a 4K TV. So that's not going to look good.
Oh, and
then
they don't
when
have the inputs anymore, do they?
Exactly. Even if they do,
Or
the
you can
ones
play it
that
on a
do it looks
PS3.
like crap.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, because because PS1 games on the PS3, they're very blocky, and they definitely show their age for sure. So a lot of people talk these remasters down, and I feel like if you talk down the remasters, dude, put in any of the flagship titles for PS1 into a PS3 on any decent refresh rate TV, and you will see why it's relevant. Like, you know what I want to see? And I realize that most people are like, huh? But I want to see the Jet Moto trilogy remaster. I want to see. Give me Jet Moto again. You're like, what the fuck is J?
I don't remember that game. Is that the one with the boats? The jet boats?
Jet Moto is like, think jet ski, like a hovering jet ski, and they had these magnetic poles where you would like throw this bolt out to do these sharp turns, big long jumps, waterfalls, high speed tricks, the whole nine. You had like different racers to choose from. It was a lot of fun.
Was that in arcades too? Did that game make it? Okay.
Not.
So I'm thinking of something similar then, but not that game. Okay.
PlayStation exclusive. They had 3 of them: Jet Moto 1, 2, and 3. I have them in my collection. They're fun, but graphically they don't hold up that well. You would have just if all you did was update the controls a little bit to integrate the analog sticks a little better, up the frame rate and up the assets, have one of the best fun little, like, it was kind of like somewhere in between racing game and like a kart racer.
Okay.
As far as like the feel, because it was a lot of fun, unpredictability with the physics. I think that would be really cool. Spyro was, I think, for a lot of people, because Spyro, not a lot of people played it when it first came out, but it gained a following well into like the PS2 era. And I think it's really cool to see a lot of people latching onto it now because they just weren't around the first time. It's pretty cool. As your first time player, what was your impression of it?
Okay, so a lot of people have asked that in my chat because I've been streaming all of it, and I love the first one, and I've liked the second and third ones. What I didn't like was, it's a very particular thing, the character Moneybags. If you remember him, you're there saving his world, and he wants to charge you your gems to give you your simple powers that you should have to use. We have decided in my chat his name is Dirtbags because he is a bag of dirt. I'm here to save your world. Great, that'll be 5,000 gems, please. I'm charging you to help me.
You're gonna die, you little turd. Come on.
Yeah. But then I thought about it. I was like, is that led us into, now we pay real money for these things and we feel okay about it.
Right.
Conspiracy theories. They were thinking that far back.
They're like, all right, microtransactions in the game.
All right, well, we charge them fake money. They'll pay that. What if we made real money?
Are you saying that Spyro was the gateway drug to microtransactions?
I'm not saying it wasn't.
That's fair. It's fair.
So,
the point.
Jim.
Yeah.
Other than, spoiler alert, Destiny Forsaken, what did you like this year?
We
know that's going to be on the list.
No. short version on this one, Destiny 2 Forsaken clearly is my game of the year because it did so much for the game. Took a game I'm already playing, took it on its head, brought back a lot of the gameplay elements people were looking for from the original game, kind of was an apology letter to the fans. Gave us a great story, did some really cool things with shaking up our expectation of the narrative and the gameplay and everything in between. Still loving it now, so which is saying something for Destiny at this point. So obviously that's what I play. Like, my favorite game of the year by far has been taking bets on how long it'll take someone to ask me if I've played a game from this year. Gauging the level of surprise when I say, no, I haven't.
That's a fun game. I've been there for that game.
It is a fun game. Yes. And I'm like, no, I haven't played it. I will win sometime. I've been saying that for 4 years, Destiny. But a game that did come out this year, came out late in the year. It was gifted to me by a fellow content creator by the name of Bicycle of Death, and his community. I think I went into one of their streams and I ended up getting it. I think it was Cataclaws that I won a giveaway and I got the game. And we went in and played some squads and did some stuff. And I think it's a fairly simple concept. Really kind of is just fun and replayable, simple fun. Killing Floor 2. If you haven't played it, check it out. When it comes to like squad-based horde mode, in-game weapon mechanics that are really a lot of fun. There's a lot of really cool synergy between the teams. Communication is key. You can tank, you can support. The soundtrack is really good. It runs like a dream on most machines. It's really good. So Killing Floor 2, I think that is a really fun game to community stuff with because it's super easy to get people in a lobby. You can swap people out. If you want to do co-streams, especially with this new Twitch feature coming out, that although multi-streams have been a thing for years, doing it in Twitch, this is a game that really begs to be used on that feature in a big way because you can do up to 4 people in this Twitch thing, I believe. I think it's 4. Either 4 or 6. And there's up to 4 team members in KF2. So super good game, super a lot of fun. And granted, I don't hardly play it, but when I do play it, I have a lot of fun. Destiny, just a thing.
I was not expecting that answer.
Neither of those. Yeah. Like I got stuff I can talk about. They're like, what is it?
Because when we were setting up this cast and talking about what we wanted to talk about, we were going to go through our list of games, and Jim's like, that's easy for me. I can just say, that's not Destiny. Know nothing about it, right?
Yeah. If you'd have listed a game, it was going to be like, well, it's not Destiny, so I don't give a shit. It would be how the discussion was going to go for the most part. You guys are finding, spoiler alert, that's not really true. Like, I've paid attention to games, even when I don't play them. Spider-Man, just, by all accounts, is the Iron Man of Marvel games. In other words, and for Marvel Studios started this whole thing, and they're really looking to, like, this is the bar we're trying to set for Marvel games. And by all accounts of how good this game is and this DLC's coming up, people are super excited. I haven't heard one person bitch about it. The fact they get this expansion bodes well for the game, man. And being a gigantic Spider-Man fan, it's something that I'm really anchoring to play. It's just a question of
I'm gonna bitch about the game.
it. Are you?
Yes.
All right, what's up?
I don't like the fighting system on the controller.
You don't like the fighting system on a controller?
I don't like the fighting. I don't like the. I wish you could kind of rekey or remap the actions, because it's awkward, and how I don't know. I don't like that you can't just lock on. I guess it's maybe because it's third person and kind of almost 3D and all that, So
So you can't target lock?
I don't know. I die like almost every single fight because there's just so much going on, and it's frustrating. I mean, I could probably get used to it if I take the time to get used to it, but it's just I want to play the story so bad. It was one of those games I enjoyed watching everybody else play on Twitch than I did playing myself. If that makes sense.
Well, like, so here's the GamerDad review of Spider-Man. It's not Warhammer. Next.
And, accurate.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, if it's not Warhammer, painting Warhammer stuff, it's a really hard egg for you to crack, man. I get that. I totally get that. Obviously,
I did crack one egg. Yeah, Destiny. I did crack one egg for sure. Well, two. Actually, two. Destiny was one of them. Destiny got me back into focused computer gaming. I mean, you're on PS4 mostly. I'm on PC mostly, but I got into the grind. I enjoyed it. But I got into Fallout 76, which is probably my best and worst game of the year. Both.
Right.
I mean,
get you.
You take the best game and the worst game and you put it together and you get Fallout 76. I mean,
it's another. I think it's another one that we've talked about this before,
Mhm.
where there's an expectation of what it was supposed to be.
Mhm.
It was not that, but there is still the Fallout is there,
Mhm.
For better or for worse, and balancing patches are making changes in that regard. And we've said it more than once, I'm sure, and if we haven't, I'm going to say it now. Even as someone who is a little happy that there's some egg on Bethesda's face
Mhm.
for trying to rush a game that other companies have taken 10 years to develop and still aren't quite getting it right, Destiny. I feel like if they're they have the opportunity to pull a No Man's Sky and a year from now make it something really robust and fleshed out, and because I think there's definitely a market for, like, if you could do with Fallout, Rockstar did with GTA 5, where you don't hear a lot of people talk about it, but there's millions of people playing online every
Destiny.
single
Like
a lot of people talk about that game, man.
like Destiny was during year one.
No one posts something on Twitter about Grand Theft Auto, and the first tweet is not always dead game. Okay? I don't want to hear it. GTA 5, legitimately, with their online service, and Red Dead is about to, go that route. It's just a persistent world.
Yep.
It isn't the most compelling story-driven stuff, but it's just, there's always something to do, and you can just sit in that world and inhabit it and play it, and then you add mods into it. And I think that's what people thought 76 was going to be. It's not there, but it could be, and fingers crossed for the fans that they get that.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully,
big fingers crossed.
Yeah, hopefully with the other vaults potentially opening as expansions later, hopefully they can add some other things to the content as we go. Yeah, it could get better. I mean, bugs aside, it's Fallout 4 with friends, same graphics. A lot of the weapons all have the same visuals. The gear has a lot of the same aesthetics to it. It's Fallout with friends.
Maybe that was. Yeah, maybe that was part of the reaction, though, that it seemed like recycled sprites. It seemed like recycled assets.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people, maybe when you take the name and you change it, the Fallout 76, maybe they should have called it Fallout 4 Online, and made it an expansion. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to fix that, but I think that there was you put a new Fallout title out there, there's an expectation that you're going to get a lot of new stuff. And arguably, there's really not a lot of new content there, from what I understand. And I feel like, do you think maybe that was some of the disappointment there? Do you think maybe that was part of it?
No, I think it didn't feel like they were very thorough in preparing for the online component. They spot on with the Fallout world, spot on with the backstory and everything, but didn't really think through the stash limit. We've talked about storage space in the game for physical inventory. Talked about the building
So
and
you
stuff
think it's
like that.
mechanics more?
The mechanics specifically that link it to online, yes.
Okay, right on. But
think,
yet it is still like the best game for you as well.
Yes, because I love the
So-
Fallout space. I think as a Fallout game, it's great. As an online game, it has some to be desired.
I
Sure.
had a
I
little
mean,
bit of a different reaction with it. I thought, and this is what it was, I guess, meant to be, is that it was supposed to be very survival-esque.
Mhm.
What I had hoped for when they originally announced it was essentially a Fallout skinned Destiny. I could get online with my friends. I
Yeah.
could go do quests. I didn't have to worry about feeding my character, things like that. And it ended up being more survival than what I had hoped for, which is fine. If those are your kind of games, that's awesome. It just wasn't for me. And then with the PvP stuff is one thing that I've seen a lot of people have problems with. That if someone shoots you and you're not wanting to fight, they run in front of you when you're doing a mission and you hit them, that will start a fight. And then if you're underleveled, you're pretty much screwed right away.
Mhm. You can get trolled pretty
So-
easy, yeah.
Yeah, and the base building was never something I liked in Fallout 4. So since that's such like a big aspect of 76, I had such high hopes whenever they said originally just like, hey, basically it's gonna be Fallout, you're gonna play it online with your friends. We'll have more later after E3. And then it came out to be survival, and I was just so sad.
See, I love survival games though. So you're adding two things together that are great for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of Fallout fans, it's great. But there are a lot of issues with it that I've seen from other people that I hope they can get fixed, because I never want to see a game fail. Obviously, I hope they can get it fixed, and like Jim said, it have maybe like a Grand Theft Auto kind of thing where maybe it's not something that people talk about all day every day, but there's still a lot of people that play that game every day.
it just keeps going, and you don't hear about it because it works at what it is. I've never heard, not since they introduced like the last time I heard something bad about GTA 5 was this idea of when they put out their version of Raids, the heists, them
Mhm.
kind of being like lackluster, and I think it was because Destiny Raids had just come out and people had an expectation it would be on that level, and it wasn't. But then when they kind of glossed that over, sort of just expanded, just said, let's just throw content packages at them and let's let them play. And then the game world got bigger and bigger and bigger. I think Fallout 76 has that same potential. But like, we're talking about a really wide array of games here. We got God of War, Spider-Man, Destiny 2 Forsaken, Fallout 76, and Call of Cthulhu, all different styles of games with different goals in mind. And some hit, some didn't hit, some are still growing, some have potential to grow. You have hit or miss, highs and lows, a lot like this season has been. We've had all kinds of stuff happen. And I feel like there's a lot of moments to be remembered here. Because we're not ready to leave just yet, are we, GamerDad?
No, we're holding on for dear life.
Clawing and like, I'm not leaving yet. Yeah.
It's like when you're trying to get the cat out of the room or off of your lap, and like all of a sudden the claws come out, even if you've declawed the cat. There's new claws that just miraculously show up and embed in your leg, and you're like, trying to. Anyway.
Like
That's a
brass
stretch.
knuckles.
Yes.
Like, no, meow, meow, meow.
I can just see your little kitten, who's probably not so little anymore, on the back of your chair.
No, he's getting big, man. He's getting like this big.
Yeah.
He's growing. It's crazy. He's coming up on 3 months old now. He looks just like that emote, actually, minus the sunglasses. He's not that cool.
Gotta get him
Just-
sunglasses now.
Borrow your lady's
Yeah.
eyeliner. That's it.
No. But no.
I don't know. I'd have to
I
say
can do this all night.
no.
No.
See, I can do
No?
it. I can do
No.
it too. No. Yeah, we've
No.
we've definitely had quite a few giggle fits over the last few episodes. I think, was it not last week, but the week before, we couldn't even start because we kept just busting out in The fits of laughter.
Yeah.
This is what it's like when you get to know your co-host pretty well. It's just like, is he gonna start? No. And then you're waiting and you're anticipating, and then somebody just loses it, whether it's Jim or well, it was Jim at first, and then Jim composed himself, and then I couldn't handle it.
It made it worse. It just lots of false. We had a lot of false starts. I'd say we have at least a 30% false start rate on the podcast.
I would say that we'd have a 30% not false start rate on the podcast. I've got a lot of outtakes I can find. Yeah. I could find us a lot of startup outtakes.
I bet.
My favorite ones are when Jim botches the intro because he forgets how I set it up.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing you and I do when we have any of our recordings MPI, is when we go to set it up, like you're going to talk all the way through it and you're going to run it all the way through in like a raw format, and you can just break it up later. You don't need to cut much out. So the intro, we would imagine an intro and then a pause and then the main content, and we would just interject in there the title music and title screen. And every time Jim would get through the main intro, and we would have that pause of the title screen that we're not showing live, and then he would just wait. I'm like, it's still your turn, Jim.
Well, and to be honest, like I can tell you exactly where that comes from. I have this like natural inclination to not say the same thing I just said 30 seconds ago. Seems counterintuitive, sir. You know. Because the way I've always run my stuff is to have as few edits as possible. So I try to like, here's what we're gonna do, and now we're gonna do it. Like, granted, I'm all for production value. I'm all for it, dude. But it for some reason, like my brain railed against it, and I'm glad that it brought you so much damn entertainment. I'm just so happy.
I was gonna pull up the I've got the audio of it that everybody listening could hear right now. I've got one of the outtakes. If I could just move my window out of the screen capture, production value, guys.
That would be really great. It'd be cool.
Here,
Screw it, we'll do it live.
I'll play it right. I'll play it right now. You guys won't be able to hear it on Discord, but we'll play it real quick.
I'll listen to it real quick.
Then there was the one where I vanished. Where's Joe going? I've got so many clips of you. I can't find it right now. We'll put it in at some point. I'll find
we'll
it.
do it in post.
Oh, here we go.
Discussed about.
You get to
Oh, yeah, now he's found it. Oh, I have to get going? Shit. Oh, that's right, because you edit it later.
Yeah. We've only done this. Wow. This is our 12th time, guys.
We're
totally pros.
Day. Okay.
There you go.
It's our 12th time. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have that in these formats.
Absolutely.
And whatnot. I mean, I feel like every guest we had, there was a good conversation. And there was very different tones for every episode on some level, which I really dug. My biggest highlight, honestly, and I don't know how much of what reaction this is going to give, but there's a reason for it. It's my vaginas aren't scary monologue. Dude, but I have a reason. My stepson still yells that at random to this day. To this day, he'll be like, Jim, what? Vaginas aren't scary, dude. Like, they're not. They're not scary. They're not. I hate ninja. Like, me too, dude.
Oh my god. Because we could that was
the whole,
that was so easy to set you off though, because he's talking about, just to give context for those who missed the original episode on that, neither one of us agrees with Ninja's statements or opinions of not being willing to play with women on Fortnite or on stream or anything like that. And although I respect the underlying theme, I think the delivery is total garbage, and it's making matters worse than better. So we every once in a while will feed that to Jim and just let the blood boil a little bit, and then you get vaginas aren't scary.
Exactly.
Are you shocked
It
that
was
I
a
repeated it?
mantra. No, not at all.
Okay.
You said any of the other words that mean that. Had you said that, I've been like, oh.
Hmm.
The thing is, one of these days on my show, I'm going to have that monologue. It'll be a lot more caustic. It'll be really caustic. It'll
I
be
want to
fun.
be
I haven't
there.
done it yet.
I need to know when that happens because I want to see that too.
I think I'll warn some folks because they'll get a kick out of it. As you guys hadn't noticed, I'm a passionate dude. Wear my emotions on my sleeve and have a bit of a bleeding heart sometimes. But I'm also a child of the 70s and the 80s where things were really tough. You know, Ronald Reagan, Rambo, Schwarzenegger. So like those two things kind of coincide. Like I'm basically a hippie in punk's clothes, and love my kitties, but I'll punch you in the face if you mess with my cat, kind of thing. So when things like that came up throughout the series, you know, I would go off. And if something like hurt Joe's feelings, I'd be more mad. I'm like, Joe, God damn it. You know, like, you leave Joe alone.
Be nice to my
Bethesda.
friends.
That's right. I wanted to like go to blows with Bethesda when I started seeing the reviews for Fallout 76. I'm like, Joe's gonna be so sad, man.
Oh.
So bad.
Thick skin.
No. Yeah, that's fair. You know, you're a tough dude.
I don't,
You just done.
and that's the cool thing. I don't let the game reviews judge. I mean, I will let it, if I'm ever on the fence, I'll let it sway me one way or the other, right? But
Right.
I'm not scared to have my own opinion of a game, contrary to some other people that watch game reviews. You know,
Well,
like,
sure. What I meant by that was that when you see like what the overall reaction of this was versus what Fallout's reception normally is, I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be.
I was concerned.
This is not gonna be good.
I was absolutely concerned
Yeah.
when I heard a lot of that. Yeah.
Oh, and then you see like that GameStop thing, where the guy goes in and rips apart the GameStop because they wouldn't let him return it, dissatisfied with the product he was sold.
Best
You don't conduct yourself in
GameStop
that
video
way.
ever.
The best GameStop video ever, and it is indicative of so many things. It's indicative of how GameStop does business, of how that community, a large part of that community, felt about that game at that time, and of how people, even though they're in the right, act in a way that they shouldn't act.
Mhm.
All those things are true. I totally get where he was coming from. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't have torn up that GameStop at that time. But I get it. I don't condone the behavior, but I really, really do.
See, I kind of channeled that more towards GameStop's ridiculous policies as opposed to,
Oh yeah,
you know, because
yeah,
my opinion of when you buy a game and you're willing to spend that money on a game, you could quite possibly be playing the lottery a little bit. It's a little bit of a gamble when you get a game, especially if you've never beta tested, gone through beta, never done any reviews of your own. You know, I told everybody I'm on the fence. I'm waiting to see how Fallout 76 looks before I get it. I'm not just going to blindly buy into the beta. And I watched another one of our TRU partners, Miss Hobo Slayer, play it. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't care if there's bugs or not. This is fantastic. And then I was in. Other people were like, it's Fallout. I have to buy it. You know, no, you don't. It's not like Destiny where it's a proven product. They said this is going to be a first-time thing. They said it's a brand new game. They said it's going to suck for online at first until they work out all the garbage. We knew that. So don't go spend $60 on a game if you're not sure. Dumbass. Sorry. Soapbox.
No, I get you though, and that's
Gone.
the thing though. I love how he snuck in there that Destiny's a proven product. It never really has. Not really. It's a constantly growing entity. Like every time something new is introduced, we're like, you went too far with this. Didn't go far enough with this and this and that.
But
Like,
the general
today is an example
foundation,
of that.
the general foundation of Destiny as an online component, the overall concept exists and has been proven since Destiny 1. Fallout 76
That's
is
fair.
entering a brand new space. Now it's things like when they introduced
fair.
the armory, or when they brought in some Gambit for the first time. If that failed miserably, which it didn't, it's fantastic. If that failed miserably,
Games are amazing.
yeah, it's one of my favorite things about Destiny, to be honest. That would have been a new groundbreaking attempt. If that did or didn't do very well, I could see that being the comparison. But that wasn't the proven product until we saw it come out and prove itself. But yeah, Destiny as a whole has a better foundation. Bethesda didn't prove anything yet with their online.
And arguably, that like Destiny was built to be that, whereas Fallout had to be adapted to be that.
Mhm.
And I think that if you And I kind of saw that writing on the wall as soon as they announced it. And then they're like, "We're going to be out next year." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's going to be released. It won't be finished. Spoilers. It's not done." And
No online game
I
should be done from day one, though. It should be playable, should
and
be
that's true.
sufficient.
No,
Yeah.
true. There should be a minimum of 3 months findable content that is stable.
Yeah, they don't have
release
that.
the game that has it online. They don't have that. They don't have that. Don't. Destiny 1 barely had that upon release, but it did because it kept my and millions of others' attention. They just kind of fumbled the ball initially with how the content was going to roll out, and it's taken them, 3 years to figure out how they wanted to do that. And that's to be commended, I think. Or and some folks are. I think if there's one thing that doing this podcast has reminded me of, is that you cannot please everyone all of the time. You got to figure out who you're going after. You focus on that market, and the rest will just work the way it's supposed to work. The more you try to be a wide-ranging appeal, unless you naturally have that in your content or your game, it's never going to happen. It's never going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where games like Destiny are starting to work better. Spider-Man knew exactly who its audience was. Spider-Man wanted to recapture the glory of the best Spider-Man games, be an independent story, attached to the comic book without being so comic booky, acknowledge the existence of the movie aesthetic. It kind of hit all the points without leaning too heavily into anything but being self-contained. And that's why it's doing so well. God of War, same thing. God of War knew what it had to live up to. Made some really major changes because it pulled a Ryan Johnson. It was like, here's all the things you expect it to be. We can't do that because we're not going to outdo what your memory of this is. So let's try to start something new and force you into it. And for better or for worse, it either succeeded or failed, depending on who you talk to.
Right.
I think that's the goal of any ongoing rolling content, any kind of institution, if you will. I feel like, we've established kind of a structure here. You kind of know what to expect in terms of like what this is, but how it's done has changed and evolved even over this season. I think that MPI is going to take this somewhere else, and I'm really excited to see where he goes with it. Really excited.
And I think with that's probably a good point in time. I know we're past our hour, for sure, and I know I don't like to take too much of Jim's time past our normal hour because you've got family things you like to do. You like to get away from your computer a little bit, and I'm the same thing with my family. So this is probably, unfortunately, a good point to kind of, I'd say call it quits, but we're not really calling it quits. Our normal outro is to tell all of you that if you've got any ideas for our podcast, to send it on out to TruTalk@TruGaming.com. That email address will still exist, and MPI will still be able to check in on that to see how things are going. But if you do have any ideas for Mr. Pure Instinct and things that you would like to see next year when Season 3 comes back, date to be determined. I think you're working through schedule and some revisions to the format. But any ideas, any topics, any gaming news you would like to see reviewed, send it to the email address TruTalk@TruGaming.com. Also, don't forget to follow on Twitter, Spreaker, right? Spotify. We've got
time, yeah.
There it is. The one more time. Can you do it for me one time, Jim?
Spreaker.
There it is. On YouTube, everything like that. So don't forget to follow the channels. I am in the process of publishing all of the remaining episodes of the podcast now that work has slowed down. So you will get the entire Season 2 available before the end of the year on all of those formats. So video and audio, or audio only, or the video reproduction of it. And it looks like Mr. Pure Instinct will be back next year with some new guests, some new topics, and some new fun times, while Jim and I get to sit back as viewers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be checking in from time to time for sure.
Absolutely. And, but we're not gone forever. So don't be surprised if we, pop up here and there. But if you really want to be predictable about when GamerDad and I are going to pop up, click that follow button under GamerDad and GrindheadJim to see what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If you like the hard edge of what I do here, you really like what I do on my channel. If this channel, what I do here with TruTalk is like, and saw with like the guard on it, I take the guard off and I start throwing saws at people the whole stream. Nothing is taboo there. It's a freak flag show, and I hope that you'll enjoy it. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. I am live every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday at noon Central. GamerDad does GamerDad things. He's really into the creative side of things. He's a great teacher and demonstrator of painting miniatures and creating things and just having a really, really welcoming environment. What is your schedule, sir?
Saturday, Sunday, and Monday I will be doing creative content. Monday is specifically geared towards it's called Mentor Monday. I answer questions on any stream at any time, but slightly different format for people to come in and actually interact and go back and forth with their questions, for a little bit more of a tutorial-based approach than any other night. And on Wednesdays, we do Wasteland Wednesdays with Fallout 76. I like the game well enough to actually take up a stream night with it. Tuesdays, I will still be doing podcasts after the new year, taking a little bit of time off, trying to get it structured, get it set up. So while MPI is taking over TruTalk, one of the reasons we're transitioning this, because of the great idea to let fresh blood continuously refresh the podcast, I'm going to be starting up for TRUgaming a creative podcast. I believe we've decided to call it the Twitch Creative Podcast. Super simple. I will be doing that on my channel now, and we'll be getting different guests, big names, different partners from different aspects of creative. So that'll be on Tuesday. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'll be live 9 o'clock Eastern.
Nice.
I had a monologue, but I don't want to do it anymore. I was gonna actually read back some of the script. If anybody here is a Doctor Who fan, the best.
You would have been disappointed.
You would have been disappointed. The best. My favorite scene of a transition to a different Doctor was when, Matt Smith, I believe, was transitioning over to Peter. I'm gonna butcher his last name. I think was it Capaldi, I think is how it's pronounced. And he talked about change. Everybody's always changing, and it's always a good thing. And that's kind of the summary of the end of this podcast this time around, is that, we get to say our goodbyes, but we know where we came from and we know where we're going. And change is always good as long as you know those two things. Right? So, Jim, it's been, almost 6 months of this podcast together.
Yes,
and
sir.
I feel like a totally different partner. I feel like a totally different podcaster and host, and built a lot of good relationships along the way, especially with you and with all of our affiliates that have come through. And it's been a very fun ride, and it's going to be different getting in the passenger seat for me.
Absolutely will be. But it was an experience that I wouldn't change for the world, and I was glad to be here. And I wish MBI all the luck in the world, and we'll be watching.
You ready for this, MPI?
Man, now I feel like I have a lot to build up to.
Well, you've got a good group behind you. You still have some of the Season 1 guys around that can help. You'll have Jim and I both around to support you, and you got all of TRUgaming as well. So lots of people came in here to watch you with your introduction today. Looks like a lot of people from your community. And it's going to be great having it on your channel, because a lot of those people will have an easy way of getting to watch you. So I'm going to do this one last time. And so are you getting ready to turn out your lights, Jim? Look like you're reaching over for the light switch. So
Nah.
I'm going to sign off of the podcast one last time in the best way that I know how to bother Jim. Jim, say goodnight.
Yeah. Never.
You punk. And now we're just going to have a staring contest until he says goodnight or goodbye. Never ever. So
Never.
for the last time as the co-host of TruTalk, this is GamerDad signing off. Jim, thanks for everything.
Hey, Jim. Thank you, sir.
MPI, best of luck to you, and we'll see you in season 3.
Thanks, guys. I will see you then.
All the pressure.
Yeah,